Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here. It is 8:30 a.m. EST, and we have some exciting action in gold here. I did my weekly update and sent that out to everybody on the mailing list yesterday. You can also see it on YouTube. It's free. I put that out, and gold is at an all-time high, and it's actually gone parabolic in the last week and a half. Going back to the 22nd of August, this 3-hour chart is parabolic. This is a very important distinction for people who are new to trading. They want to identify when something is getting extremely strong. You can do that by seeing this pattern. Now, of course, by the time you see it having gone this far, it might be a little bit late to try to play with it. But as you see this pattern developing, this shape, that's called parabolic. That means you're seeing a pretty strong breakout. Now, this is a 3-hour chart. This only goes back to the beginning of the month. If I were to zoom out and take a look at the chart, say on the weekly, you'd see the same thing, right? But you see it on the weekly chart. So this is where you see basically a parabolic move going back to 2023. And then, of course, you see it more or less again from October 2018 all the way through 2020. So these moves happen and work on a much lower and higher time frame. In fact, probably the most notable parabolic move that we can see happened starting in 2001, and that continued up all the way through 2008. And of course, it started with 9/11 and it ended with the GFC. You could say that it continued up, honestly, really all the way through 2011, which was the result of the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, the mortgage-backed securities, the whole market falling thing, right? So this parabolic move really truly went from 2001 to 2011. It was a 10-year parabolic move that took gold from about $250-ish all the way up to almost $2,000. That's like a times 8, times 9. It's massive. Well, even on a lower time frame, a parabolic move could be quite powerful. And we're starting to see one on a higher time frame. And one thing that people may not quite understand about gold is that it may end up being the settlement for international settlement, if you will, because our fiat currencies are undergoing some changes, and they're probably going to be used a lot less. Now, gold might be part of the equation. Even if it's a small part of the equation, the value of gold would have to be much higher than it is right now for that to work. It's already being used in China for this to a certain degree. People will exchange their currency for a certain amount of their yuan, right? They will do trade. And then if there's any balance left after this whole trade is done, then they are able to change that into gold and take it home. So they already have had it. They've had the gold trade settlement note for quite some time. And I believe that's basically what they're dealing with right now. I believe what I just described is the gold trade settlement note. So all of that to say that gold seems to have an increasingly important position in the world economy. We could go back in history and talk about it. I've talked about it quite a bit, but we're just going to move on. Let's just say I think gold maybe by the end of the decade could easily double in price, maybe go to $6,000. If I were to do some basic targets, I'd be looking at, just some near-term targets, relatively near-term. I'd say 3750 and like 4,000. And I think we'll see 4,000 by the end of the year. Some people don't think we'll see it until next year. I think we could see 4,000 at this trajectory by October. At this trajectory. So it might not happen until next year, but it could happen as soon as before the end of this year, definitely. It's very possible to see $4,000 gold. So let's go ahead, and I don't see any requests in the comments section. I'm going to take a look at the NASDAQ. So I'm going to zoom back in. That was a high time frame look on gold. And it does look like the bounce that we got, that I did predict, we got that bounce and it's sustaining. So one thing we talked about in the weekly update, and if you want to get that update sent to you, just go to the description. You'll get a free algo if you click the link, and I will send you weekly updates. And on top of that, I will let you know when we're having our webinars. Okay. That said, yeah, we're going to bounce. And how do I say this delicately? I guess I'm not going to say it too delicately. These indices, NASDAQ, Dow, SP 500, they're all manipulated. It just is what it is. You have too many people with high net worth, and their worth is tied to the value of these indices. So, for example, the NASDAQ is about 13% NVIDIA. And you'll have people who are like NVIDIA multimillionaires, maybe even billionaires. A lot of their net worth is wrapped up in NVIDIA stock. And what they do instead of selling their stock to pay for things is, because that's a taxable event, they borrow against their stock. And they take the loan and they pay for things that way. So their stock becomes collateral. Now, in that particular case, there's no taxable event, and anybody can do that. You can do that. This is not an elite thing only, but if the stock goes down a lot, then you end up in trouble, because you get basically what's a margin call. Your loans get called in. You have to pay off the loan, and you will lose your stock, right? So doing that can be tricky. And for these multi-billion-dollar people who have their money wrapped up in stocks like NVIDIA, or things like the NASDAQ or ES1, which is the SP 500 Dow, these have to continue to go up for the game to continue to get played. Let's say that you're Mark Zuckerberg. Let's say that you are Mark Zuckerberg and you are going to pay for a political candidate like you did in 2020, donating massive amounts of money to somebody like Joe Biden. He's going to borrow against his stock to pay for that. That is part of the political machine. If he's going to do that, he needs guarantees. He needs assurances that if he were to borrow against his stock, now I'm not saying he did this, I'm saying he probably did this. I don't really know where Zuckerberg got the money to pay for Joe Biden's campaign, but he probably got it in some fashion, as I'm saying right now, and at least in part. I'm only guessing. Now, he would need assurances that borrowing against his Meta stock is going to be guaranteed that that Meta stock stays high enough for him to be able to pay back that loan, or however he's going to get that money back. I guarantee you he got the money back somehow, at least in some way, in some deal. That's how everything works. And let's just understand that the world is not clean. And that means that these indices are probably going to continue to go up until they can't anymore, right? And we're probably going to have some clues as to when they can't anymore, because institutional flows will do certain things. And at this time, I need a little bit more data to say whether or not that's going to happen. I don't think it's happening yet, but I could be wrong. And what we're seeing here is a bit of a topping pattern, but it's a low time frame, or lowish time frame topping pattern. It's not like a generational topping pattern. It could turn into one. But what we've seen with the NASDAQ is we got a high here, and this was back in the end of July, 23,008. We got an all-time high here in mid-August, sitting at 24,000. And then we got a lower high with an attempt to reclaim that prior high. In effect, it's kind of the head and shoulders. Not really, but it's in effect going to be like one. Now, what we need to understand is, in order for this game to continue, price will eventually have to make its way past this all-time high, right? Now, it could just go sideways forever, and everybody reshuffles. And I mean, it's not necessarily going to go down, but there is a lot of information right now that doesn't look good long-term for the US bond market in particular, which is what holds up all these stocks. So in effect, I don't know that this is going to happen right now. It might be months from now, but I think that we're going to see price make its way down to 22,400, because if I zoom out, and this is the NASDAQ, mind you, and of course the the other indices will probably follow suit. V the Gorilla, how you doing, sir? You're muted, V.
Oh, good. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, no worries. We're just talking about, well, how do I say this? Institutionalized corruption. Beautiful subject, but we're just saying how they're holding the market up because all these billionaires' value is held, borrowing against their stock. So if their stock goes down, then they lose all their money, and that can't happen. So price will eventually, I think, on the NASDAQ make its way to 22,400. It might not happen until, like, I don't know, later this year, next year, could happen tomorrow. But what is the rumor right now is that the data that comes out, like, say, for example, today at 8 a.m. my time, so 10 a.m. EST is the JOLTS job openings. The data that came out, for example, yesterday for manufacturing PMI was slightly cool. It wasn't hot. So anything that is not hot, meaning that anything that comes out looking in any way economically weak, is going to be possibly used to justify even more of a rate cut than we're expecting. Now, whether or not that happens almost doesn't matter. What matters is what the data looks like when it comes out, as far as which way price goes in the market. And if these job openings are significantly lower than 7.38 million, which is the estimate, then we might see this NASDAQ jump up really hard and very fast, just like it did yesterday with not even very cool, but just semi-cool data. This move here, this bounce that happened right here, that was because the data yesterday wasn't hot. Not just because it was cool, it was barely cool, but it just wasn't hot. So a lot of money is front running at least a 25 basis point cut. And that's going to also push BTC up. BTC itself is grinding up and to the right and continues to do so, as I did predict in the video. We're going to get into the BTC chart, but we're at the end of our live lab right now, right? So V the Gorilla, can you please go ahead and give us that send off, and I'll get us over to the private live lab.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, follow us over. We're the most prolific trading group. Not only do you learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro, but you also learn how to build the algorithms that trade on your behalf 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you will know the geopolitical, geostrategic, geoeconomic situations globally that allow you to trade and make profit from the chaos. Join us, algofactory.tech.
Join us or die.
Just kidding.